Right now, so many leaders and entrepreneurs are carrying this weird double weight. The world feels unstable, yet they're expected to be stable in their business, keep the steady hand. More decisions, more noise, more pressure to figure out what's next, what's the best pathway forward. And somehow you're supposed to do it all with confidence and cash flow. Well, today our guest is someone who lives at the intersection of vision and the numbers that actually creates an empire scaling. If you have ever felt like you are working harder, but the business still feels kind of fragile or precarious, this conversation is going to make the difference. Okay, well, if you are interested in being a self-made millionaire, then today's episode is for you. Dr. Susie Carder is my guest, and she is the Profit Queen, your ultimate secret weapon for explosive business growth. She's a self-made millionaire. She's a powerhouse fractional COO, and she has built and sold multi-million dollar companies, including an 8-figure empire. I am so happy she said yes. Let's learn from Dr. Susie Carder today. Welcome, Susie.
Welcome, welcome. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. So excited to pour into you guys. This is going to be amazing because,
Yes.
we have
Well,
Josselyne. How can it not be amazing, right?
and
The
it,
two
and
of
Susie,
us.
Josselyne and Susie, we're going to have our own podcast at some point. We're just going to be like,
Exactly.
so first of all, tell us how you ended up doing what you're doing, because, obviously being the profit queen, and delving into the systems that really build the empires. How did you get into this realm?
Well, I got into it because I sucked at it.
I get it. I totally get it.
So my first business was, my first vocation was I was a hairdresser, right? I started out as a hairdresser and I was a single mom and trying to figure out how to make money for my kids. I had no alimony support, no child support. So it was just me. So I had to figure out business fast, right? I left when my babies were 6 months old and 18 months. So I just
Mm,
had to get doing it, right? And
no
I was
time
great
for
at making money.
overanalyzing, like Action Jackson mode.
Exactly. You don't have time to think about it. You have no back door. I think a lot of entrepreneurs have a back door, meaning they have a significant other. You might have a job and this is your side hustle. I had none, right? So I didn't have a back door. So when you don't have a back door, failing is an optional, right? Rent was due, food, tuition, all that stuff for kids. And I had to learn how to make money, which is marketing, right? You had to find those ideal clients. You had to find the people that would spend the money. So pretty quickly, I got to a 6-figure, and then I got to $250,000 as a solo stylist, which the average stylist, Jocelyn, was making about 30 grand a year.
Oh my gosh.
And Paul Mitchell would come in and go, "What are you do? How do you do this?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I do marketing campaign, referral campaign. Like, I'm managing my books, I'm upselling." And they're like, "Well, will you teach our salons and spas?" And I'm like, "Sure, girl." I did not know what that meant. I did not know how to teach people, but I just had a servant heart and I wanted to make a difference in our industry. And I quickly learned that there wasn't people like me who was teaching business, right? It was all men and men in their 50s and 60s, and I'm a 20 something year old, entrepreneur.
Chick.
Exactly. So I'm like, I should be doing this, right? And again, coming from a service heart, I did not want to be a professional speaker. I didn't know what that meant. And I got on the speaking circuit. Girl, I didn't know how to charge. I didn't know any of that. Right. I'm just like, let me help you. Let me do this with you. Let me support this conversation. And then just, this is so sad to say, but if I can do it, you can do it. So I would go to these events and they're like, "Oh my gosh, do you have a book?" I'm like, "No, I don't have a book. I'm a hairdresser." They're like, "We would buy a book if you wrote a book." And I'm like, "That's it. I'm going to write a book and I will be famous."
I already love this story. It's kind of like, I don't know how to do it, but I'm going to say yes. It's build it. They will come, whatever. I love it. This is all pure
Exactly.
creation.
Pure creation. So at that time, I had bought a salon and spa, and we were the top 1% in the nation, top 10% in the world, and we earned that right by the dollars we producing. Again, you have no back door, so I was making it happen. And because I was on the road teaching it, you really have to walk your walk, right? You can't just
Yeah.
talk about doing it and the awards that we were getting, you had to submit your P&Ls, you had to submit your financials, that
So you
asking all
couldn't
the
fluff
questions.
it. It was the real deal or no deal.
Exactly. Or you didn't get the award, which is great because so many awards you just buy, right? This one was you could not buy this award. And so then I would talk about systems, and people are like, oh my God, we would buy those systems. Again, it wasn't my vocation doing the speaking side. My vocation was I own the salon and
Doing
spa. I
hair.
was still a
Yeah.
technician in the business. And they're like, we would buy that. And I'm like, you would buy that? My systems? Because I brought my systems book to show them. And then I held it up. I'm like, how many of you would buy this if I had it? And they all raised their hand. I'm like, well, how much would you pay for that? We're like, we will pay $1,000. I'm like, how many of you would buy this for $1,000? And like 50 people raise their hand. I'm like, sold. So I came home with $100,000
That is the
to my
best.
partner and said, okay, I gave us 12 weeks. We have to duplicate this. I said it wasn't going to be branded to them. It's going to have our branding on it. They're just buying the sample because they're like, we
Yeah.
just need a place to start. And literally, that was my pricing strategy. Jocelyn, how much will you pay for that? How much will you pay for that? So ghetto, right? But
I
again,
l
it wasn't my income source. It was just a passion. And literally, that's how I started speaking, training, consulting. And I was only in the beauty industry, right? Wasn't outside the
Mhm.
beauty industry. And then we realized that the industry needed like on demand answers, right? This is 2000. So I want to give you the benchmark 2000. Google hasn't even launched yet, right? There was no software share. And I said, they need a website that they can download our promotions, they can download our education, they can download our templates, and then get everything. And we could charge $100 a month. And again, I'm like, how many of you would buy that? And they all raise their hand. Right now, this was before WordPress. This was before ClickFunnels, before Infusionsoft, before any Stripe.
You were
Think
like
about
on AOL or something, you know?
yes. So we had to build that back end completely. My first website, Jocelyn. So think about it. It was like a membership website, but think about no continuation programs were available then. So we had to build the whole thing. The first website was a $500,000. A
Oh
half a
my
million
god,
dollars.
that's insane.
I didn't have a $500,000. So what did I do? I found a course that taught us how to raise money. Went to this course. And while I was in this course, I had to go 10 to 15 times just to figure out what they were saying. Because literally it was like Charlie Brown's teacher. Wah, wah, wah,
Right,
wah, wah,
wah, wah,
wah,
wah,
wah.
wah.
I'm
Well, it's
like,
a whole
open
lingo, you know? Oh my god.
like, what the hell are they saying? What do they mean PPM? What did that PPM mean again? What's SEC? Who's SEC? Why are they scary? Well, you could go to jail. What can you say and not say? I'm not going to jail, right? And then in that course, I went to the founder and I said, "Listen, you're teaching everybody how to raise money, but they're not building businesses. So it's almost fraudulent. They're raising money, but they have no back end." He's like, "Great, why don't you teach that?" I'm like, "Oh no, I don't. I don't teach outside of the beauty industry." He goes, "It'll be fine. You'll be great. You'll be a great story because you're not suited and booted." And I'm like, "Okay." So that's how I started teaching entrepreneurs. And then people like you would come up to me and go, "Well, can I hire you?" I'm like, "No, you can't hire me. I don't know anything about your business. And you seem scary, right? Because you're not my people." So I did that for a year, Jocelyn. I kept turning money away. I'm like, no, I'm not outside that industry. And then, one night I'm laying there and I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to raise my prices because they didn't bulk at my prices. They're like, okay. And I'm like, I just don't have capacity. Like I had every sexy story
Sure.
you can imagine. And I want your listeners to think, how many times do you do that? Have a sexy story, have an excuse, have a reason why. And it was good. It was all a good story and excuse. So I'm laying in bed one night going, all these people. I'm like, I was scared. Let me just be honest. I was scared. I only knew this business. I didn't know any other business. And so I had a graphic designer come up to me because she goes, Susie, I need you. No, I can't relate to anybody else. You talk about the hardship, you talk about being sued, you talk about the reality of business. And I'm like, okay. So at that time, I was charging $2,000 a month. So I said, I'm going to charge $5,000 a month, right? I'm like, I'm just going to double my prices. She goes, okay. I'm like, what do you mean, okay? Okay. I'm like, well, you have to sign a year long contract. Okay. Oh, shit. Now I'm like, okay.
Be
So
careful what you wish for.
well, I thought they'd go away, but they didn't go away. They came in droves, right? And so what I realized in that process is business is business is business, right? And I told her, I don't know anything about graphic design, but I do know business. And I had a really great accountant. And in the accounting world, there's all kinds of indicators of what your industry standards should be. And so we put those in place and just looked at what are your industry standards. And it is the same. You're managing people. Like business would be easy if you didn't have team or employees, right? You just do what you're doing. And so to build an effective team, you've got to have systems and structures in place.
Totally.
And so the industry pushed me into this other industry called entrepreneurship. And then I realized, oh my, this is fun too. Right now, I could make double the money and less clients that allowed me to
Yeah.
build my business, allow me to build that other business. That other business, we won the top technology award for new businesses that year. And so when I look at that, to go, oh, again, I didn't know anything about technology. I found the right people. Now that was a learning curve, finding the right people. And what I learned in business is there's a lot of mentors, coaches, service providers who say they can, but they actually cannot. And so, what a huge lesson just in due diligence, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, can I just tell you how much money I wasted not knowing, right? You just go, oh, you can do that? Okay, great.
It's
Oh,
the
you can
price
make
of
that?
your
Okay, great.
education. That's what I always say. It's like, okay, well, that's what it cost me to go to business school.
Exactly. Like, how much money have we spent wrong, Jocelyn,
Exactly.
to get where we're at? And really loved the industry. And then 2009, we sold our training and development company to Ritker's Publishing, and we've got a nine-figure deal for that. And I had a non-compete in that industry, and so all of a sudden, I'm like, well, now I can play over here. So I took some time off. I played over here in this entrepreneur space, and then the market crashed. And 2000, 7 to 9 was a volatile financial year for everybody, not just me. But I
Yes.
lost 90% of my wealth, right? What seemed like overnight, it was a couple years, but overnight, just everything collapsed. And we've always had a real estate development company. We've invested in real estate. We've done well in real estate. And I still have that company today. I still do that. We've got multiple rental properties and personal properties. And it was so humbling. I remember Jocelyn just being on the floor bawling. Like, I don't have 20 years to rebuild this. I was in my 40s, right? And crying, and not a pity party crying, but a crying like, what do I
Grief.
do?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
grief.
the
And now
loss of
what?
it, the loss
Yeah.
of, I can't go back into that industry because I have a non compete in that industry. I never had to work again. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, holy shit, what do I do? Right?
Yeah.
Just feeling like the rug was pulled out from under me. And then my marriage of 17 years, that collapsed from the financial pressure. And he felt he was responsible because he made some of these decisions. And so he left. And I'm just abandoned and like he's grief and loss. And my kids were going to college. And I'm like, what do I do now? Right? I'm supposed to be the profit coach. I'm supposed to be the lady that knows about money. And as I'm crying on the floor, I heard a voice in my head. I'll call it God. You guys can call it your higher power or whatever you want. And I heard, I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. Get up. Get up and go tell the people. I'm like, I'm not telling people this shit. Like, there is no looking good in this story, right?
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
And
Which
I'm
most
still
people are
in it.
addicted to.
Yeah, I'm still in it, right? I haven't recovered from it. We can all talk about it. Once I'm through it, I can talk about it. Look, I can, but I'm in the middle of it. And I had two clients. I had Lisa Nichols and John Asseroff. And I said, I'm going to put my head down and I'm going to do for them what I did for myself. And that's how this business became my business, is turning John's company around, turning Lisa's company around. We took it from 80,000 to 10 million. John was in a deficit in his profit margins when I met him. It was a negative 300. We turned it around to a positive 300, right? Shifted that whole dynamic and went, oh my God, I'm really good at this. And it didn't take me 20 years because I had all those learning lessons, right? Because I had all those bloody knees, bloody elbows, did it wrong. You're savvier. I learned that I was so heavily invested in real estate that when the market collapsed, I collapsed. That was
Yeah.
a huge lesson to go, holy shit, it was great when it was great, but if you can't sustain it when the market's down, and that's business in general, but for some reason, we had done well and we had enough coming in that we could always cover it. And now I didn't have that coming in to cover it. And it was devastating. And so my passion has been, if I can do it, you can do it. And I share from my valley versus my mountaintop. I'll share from my mountaintop because those are
Sure.
important too, right? That gives you credibility. That kind of tells the story of here's the journey. But the reality is, you learn more when you're on your knees. You learn more when you've done it wrong. You learn more when you've got taken advantage of. You learn more when you get mollywopped.
And
Or
if you're
I
not
do.
failing at something, then you're not up to a big enough game. If
Well,
people
I
are just
always say that.
telling,
I love that, right? But
yeah, I mean, people are so like averse to failing. I'm like, no, that's where the growth is.
yeah. Although I love that saying, but I hate it when I'm in it.
Well, yeah, no, no, no. I mean, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
It's like it's for you to fail and learn, not for me. No, no, no. No, I get it exactly. It's like,
But it is humbling, and that is where the growth happens. That is where your humanity happens, right? I learned that a long time ago speaking, quit trying to be the expert and just tell the truth, right? I was doing this class on hiring, and it was back in the when we were doing events for the salon and spa, and in the middle of that I'm being sued by an employee. I'm, paying these attorneys cuz I didn't have time cards.
yeah.
Nobody had time cards back then. We weren't tracking time. And so I'm like, look, I'm full of shit right now. I just have to stop because I'm being sued and it sucks and I'm pissed. I got a standing ovation. They just stood up and cheered. I'm like, you guys are cuckoo. I just told you I'm being sued and you're giving me a standing ovation. You're cuckoo.
Well, that's real life. I mean, as an entrepreneur, if you're not at risk for being sued, you're not a real entrepreneur because you don't know all the rules and I mean, it's like who's looking up all that stuff? So time
Right.
cards, schmon cards, you're just by the bootstraps creating. And maybe you hear about, oh, well, you're supposed to do this, supposed to do that. I recently found out the hard way, like you did, about certain rules. And I was like, that makes no sense. That
Yeah.
can't be a law because it makes no sense, but it is.
Right. Well, and people go, "Oh, because you're Dr. Susie." No, I didn't get this till 2 years ago, right? So I'm a lifelong learner. So this, you just start picking up education because you've been sued or that law's stupid, or you got to go to a business law class now because you don't want to get smacked again, or you go to an accounting class because you're,
Or somebody gets out of a contract that you're in and you find out where the hole is in your contract, and then you got to go
yes,
back and rewrite whatever that is so that it protects. But it's like, what are you going to do?
right,
Sit in the misery of the failure? No, you go, okay, so what do I need to alter so that the next round the
they don't
elevation
lose,
is there. Exactly. It's
right?
it's just like I always say Michael Jordan because he's my favorite basketball player. It's like, it's not like he makes every shot or he used to make every shot. No, he missed more shots than he made. But every
Right.
time he missed a shot, he can see or the coach can see where to
Yeah.
tweak the wrist, where to, shift your leg position. And that's what it is to be a high performer in
Right.
business is you have to be able to see what didn't work so that you can alter course correct and pivot.
Yes, exactly. And so I think if you it and you can't do that yourself, right? I
No.
can't see my shot. I've got to have somebody like you going, "Oh, here's the pattern. Oh, here's what you did. Oh," and I've always had coaches around me. They weren't called coaches then, right? I had, three financial coaches, a CPA, a wealth manager, and a tax strategist. I've had a health and fitness coach, right? I've had
Me
a
too.
personal development coach, aka therapist, you know, a business coach, not all at the same time. So don't get overwhelmed when we say that. But I
No, no,
look
no, but I have
at
4 or 5 coaches at the same time because I'm committed to high performance in at least that many areas.
right. And you have to go, what do I need in this season? Right. And if you're up to big things, it takes a minute to create that movement. It doesn't happen overnight. I think we get so jaded by the Google download, by the TikToks, by the instant, oh, I've got ADHD, oh, I'm neurodivergent, but do you know what it means, right? Do you know how to use it as a superpower, or does it hinder you? Do you know how to market? Are you implementing what you're learning? And so I think it's important that you're having someone guide you, support you in all aspects.
Yeah, and I always say, you can't see what you can't see. Your blind spots are your blind spots for a reason, because it's
Yes.
like trying to see your eyeballs with your eyes. So a coach or an advisor or a mentor is the perfect person to be able to hear what you're saying and see what you don't see so that you can accomplish what you want to accomplish. Doesn't always feel good though, because sometimes that coach or mentor will tell you something you don't want to hear, but that's only the current you that doesn't want to
Yes.
hear it. The future you is exactly what that you need to hear.
But I think that's a great coach, right? You're not paying us to like us, right?
No.
You're paying us to see the holes. You're paying us to look at what's missing. And you're not paying me to be your friend. You've got enough friends, right? You're paying me to look at that business strategically and go, what does my business need now to grow to that next level? And there's money all around you, right? If you're not making the revenue you want, it's a marketing strategy, it's a sales strategy, right? You're sucking at one of those two things, right? It's a retention. There's all these indicators, we call them KPIs, but those little indicators are the things that change the dial. It's like this combination lock, right? Remember
Mm.
when you were in school, you do this thing and especially when you're in a hurry, you couldn't open it and you got to take your time, go this way, go this way, go this way. One little tick off and it's not going to open. One little tick off in your business, it's not going to open. But if you look at sales, marketing, operations, finance, your personal development, those are 5 ticks to go, wait, where? And then my team, and then this is not opening because you don't have a combination. You have the
Yeah.
combination for maybe a 6-figure business, but a 7-figure, 8-figure business, do you have the combination? Because the combination is different. Every half a million, you have a different business. And you have to go, what do I want to do now? And are you planning for that profit? Most
Yes.
entrepreneurs aren't planning for profit. They're just, oh, I'm just going to make enough money and then. That never
It's all
happens.
survival. People function from survival. So like, in the beginning, your company is a creation. It's magical. You're failing, you're succeeding. You don't even know what the hell you're doing. And it's just all energy and magic. But then at some point, as I'm hearing you talk and I can tell with the people that I work with, it turns into a thing. Your company turns into a thing,
Yeah.
like a thing that has to survive, and you got to meet payroll and you got to, keep this going. And then the magic disappears. And
Right.
now you're in survival. So, how do you bring the magic back when it's turned into something to manage? And that I can hear, is something that you work with.
Yeah, the burden of the business versus the passion of the business. My first book was titled Passion because I'm so passionate about what I do when I do it. Like I'm blessed that everything I've chose to done I do I love, right? And what that old book we all read, Do What You Love and the Money Will Come. Firm believer in that. I don't remember the author, so I apologize that I'm not quoting her specifically, but it is her specifically. It was a great read that just said, if you're not passionate about what you're doing, go find something else. Nobody wants a job.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
as an entrepreneur, if you're doing it for money, it becomes this burdenous job and an expensive job to go, I don't like that. Well, I love what I do. Right. So for me, it was the finding, how do I make it profitable? Right. My
Yeah.
first salon, I had $1 million business, but that first year we lost $70,000. So it didn't matter. I made 1 million. I lost 70. That at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Right.
Yes.
Because no money left. That money came out of my pocket. I didn't get paid that year, right? And how the hell do you do that, right? That's that shell game that we're doing with money. And to go, oh, there was a couple
Oh,
indicators,
yes.
right?
They're clicks. The ticks were off.
My pricing was off by $5, and you think, oh, $5 doesn't mean anything. Well, $5 was $70,000. So when you look at, oh, it's not a big deal. No, it is a big deal. And a lot of us as entrepreneurs, we're just pulling pricing out of our behinds, right? And that's not how you figure out pricing. They go, oh, Josselyne charges this, Susie charges this, Mel charges this, I'm going to charge this. Well, we don't know what their overhead is. We don't know what
Yeah.
your overhead is. And the higher the overhead, that's got to come out of pricing, not your pocket, right? Or you don't have a business. We have a very sexy job. And it's okay to have a lifestyle business where it is a job, but know that that's what you have to go. I don't want a big business. I just want something for my lifestyle to replace a job. And that's okay too. Like you get to choose whatever you want, but know the difference when you're going in. I didn't
And
know
know
the
what you're
difference.
measuring. I mean, I think a lot of people aren't clear what they're measuring, and you only move what you measure. So if you're not
Yes.
clear what you're measuring, it's going to be scattered. You're just going to be doing stuff,
Right.
which is busyness, not a business. Very
Yes.
different. So what's the secret? I know you work with people to build multi-million dollar companies. So what would you say is the secret or secrets to building multi-million dollar companies?
Your financial roadmap. You've got to
Say
be
more.
crystal clear on what it is you're going to do and how you will do it. And so, what I've learned is entrepreneurs can manage units better than they can manage dollars. So, if I said, Josselyne, build a $10 million business, you can get overwhelmed. But if I said, just sell 10 of these a month, oh, I can do that. Right. And so having those financial indicators when you're looking at, okay, well, here's how many units of this, here's how many units of that. Right. So you can see and you map it out for the year. Then you have to boil it down to, well, how many qualified leads does that take? Right. Because again, marketing is kind of that elusive thing. And most marketers go, oh, we got this many impressions. I don't give a shit about vanity metrics. Either
Yeah.
they got in my database or they did not. And if they got in my database, they're qualified or they're not qualified. And a lot of times we don't dig that deep. And we're lazy about doing that ideal client. Like we do it one time, but is that really the ideal qualified client? Meaning they can pay us. They're going to do the work, right? They're going to make it happen. They're going to follow what you say. Because if they don't do that, and I got to love them, right? I got to have fun with you. I don't want to do anything or push people uphill. It's not about money anymore, right?
Yeah.
It's about, is this a joy? Is it making a contribution to humanity, right? Do I love working with you? And are you coachable? And can you pay me, right?
Yeah.
Because those things are going to keep the engine going and have me eating, sleeping, drinking, Josselyne's business. And so when you look at your financial roadmap, you would never just get on a plane and go anywhere. You plan all that out, but we don't do it in our business. And we don't
Mm.
write the business plan for the future if you even have a business plan and not a business plan in your head. You got to get it out of your head. But I always start with the finances because math is money and money is fun. We all love what money can do for us, but nobody wants to look at their P&Ls. They don't want to look at their finances because it's not fun. Well, I
Well,
created it.
I think it's a lot of fun, but I know what you mean because a lot of the entrepreneurs and founders that I work with, one of the biggest hurdles in the beginning is to just get them to look at their books, like how much money are you making? How much money do you owe? How much money are you spending? How much money do you have? I mean, that's like, well, enough. No, that's not a real number.
Right.
And the reality of people's monies gives them power if they get related to the reality, because what messes with people so much is their relationship to money, not
Yes.
so much how much money they have or make. It's their view of it. What do
Yeah.
you find messes with the people that you work with or the founders that you've worked with? What stops them from being able to fulfill on what they want to create?
Well, I think there's that, we look at your conversations, like you said, with money, right? It comes from generational. What did your family say about it? We all have those things. Then you have your community. Who are you being with? Who are you hanging out with? Because you are the sum of those 10 people, right? Or even
Yeah.
5 people, right? If you have a tight network, and are you in a poverty mindset or a prosperity mindset? And if I look at 15% of our financial success is our vocation. So it's
Mm.
what we do is only 15%. The other 85% is how do we communicate? What's the strategy? Are we doing it? Are we not? And the being of that with our team, our our clients, are we holding them accountable? Are we making that happen? Are we not making that happen? And so it's dissecting everything inside of your business. And most of the time it's pricing. Your pricing
Hmm.
is off. You didn't set it up for profit. And so when I'm coaching this client right now and they're doing 15 million, and there's no indicators, there's no KPIs, it's this shell game because money keeps coming in. Like, dude, we've got to boil this down. We've got to hold your business development person to how many RFPs, requests for proposals, do we need to put in, right? So he hits the goal, because right now you're just frustrated and mad at him, but he has no indicator of, is he doing his job or is
Metrics.
he not? Like, he's a great
Yeah.
guy, but who cares if he's a great guy? We're
Well,
not
it's
putting
like you
these
want to
numbers
lose
up.
weight, but you don't have a scale. It's like, how are you going? Well, my pants feel better. It's like, no, that's because you haven't laundered them in a while. They feel loose.
So I think
Yeah.
it's not one thing we do, it's all the things that we do. And a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we're just in the dig versus stepping back and saying strategically, it's hard to be the technician inside that business, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to straddle. The first person I've always hired is an operations person because they're the foundation of the business, right? They're that strategic thinker. You don't have to do it all, right? But that person is going to help you put those systems in place so that you can be the technician, and your number two is that worker bee operations, right? So now I do fractional COO, which is operations, to go, this
Yeah.
is what we need to put in place, this is what you're measuring, this is what we're looking at, this is how we're going to play the game. And I want to play it as a game. I don't want it to be arduous, I don't want it to be stressful, I want it to be fun, I want it to be, we're winning every day versus, oh my god, another bill. Well, don't
Yes.
tell me no, tell me how much. How much do I need to sell? What do I need to do? Right? And
Yep.
a lot of this is in our pricing to go again, $5 off, that was 70 grand. Well, I didn't know that. I was still, when I looked at, because most of us do that competitive analysis, right? That's the sexy way to go. How much does Josselyne charge? How much does Susie charge? That's competitive analysis. Well, we were higher than our competitors, but so was our overhead, right?
Right.
Was our, our cost of goods. So was everything we were providing for our team, right? Our retirement accounts, our insurance, our all that. I didn't know you had to look at all that, right? That had no idea because I was a rogue entrepreneur, just making it happen and working on hustle and flow. And you can only get so far with hustle and flow, and then it
Yeah.
smacks you upside the head, right?
For sure. But now let's look at like a business that doesn't have a lot of money. So not a $15 million business, but if they want to start a bit, let's say somebody who wants to start a business,
Yeah.
what's something that they can do when they don't have a ton of cash flow or customers or clients? What's something you could offer people to like get them started?
Well, my book, Power Your Profits, is the roadmap to building a $10 million business. And the reason I said the $15 million business is because it doesn't matter if you're 100,000 or 15 million, you're just managing more zeros. He was still playing the shell game at 15 million that you do at $100,000, right? So
Mm,
it's the same. You're doing more zeros, and people go, Susie, it can't be that way. Oh no, it's that way. I know it's shocking, but it is that way. So the foundation is still the same. How much money do you need personally? How much does the business need? And then let's work backwards. That's how we're going to determine our pricing. What does it cost us to do that? How many units do we need to sell? Right? What do we price that product for? What's your personal capacity? Right? So if you look at a coaching business or you look at, a service-based business, there's a capacity to you, right? And if you go, you want to bring home 100 grand a year, well, you need to double that and bring in at least 200 grand a year because the business is going to need that marketing. It's going to need, again, look at the website. The first website I did, $500,000. It's not that now, but a good website, right? A good team to put that in place, that's going to cost money. And to be realistic in that, I think when we're doing expenses, we kind of under evaluate it, but it's always twice as much money in twice the amount of time. And that's the thing you have to look at is how much is this really going to cost me? Now, I bootstrapped my businesses in the beginning. I had no money, right? I grew up poor. My parents didn't have money. I didn't have money, right? I was a single mom raising two kids. I didn't have a good relationship. My picker was off, girl. Whew, that was
right. That was
right.
the clicks. You had some clicks off in your relationship world.
Exactly. So again, I had to hustle. 50 cents went into my pocket, 50 cents went into the business. Sometimes 10 cents went in my pocket and 90 cents went into the business. That's entrepreneurship, right? To go, okay, so what do I need to generate to pay this
Right.
overhead? And it all boils down to finances. I didn't like finances when I started. I didn't want to look at it. I just wanted to hustle. I just wanted to make money, right? But that, again, as an entrepreneur, like, how do you make all this money and lose 70 grand?
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't look at the numbers. I would go into the bank. This is how bad I was, you guys. I would go in the bank and I would close my account and open a new one. And my banker's like, Susie, what are you doing? I'm like, I can't balance it. And it's too far gone. She goes, well, let's get you QuickBooks. And I'm like, well, what is QuickBooks? I'm not good with the computer. She goes, I'll help you. Like, thank God, right? She's like, what the hell are you doing, chick? You're coming in here closing, opening, and it's
That
just
is
this money
hysterical.
transfer with this silliness. Because I knew I was supposed to balance it, right?
Right. So it's like,
It
I'm just
was,
gonna throw this body away. I don't wanna weigh it. I'm just gonna throw it away and get a new one,
I don't want to
know?
look at it.
Yeah,
Right. But that was
exactly.
my dysfunction to go,
Yeah.
okay, I've got to master this. I've got to understand it. Right.
Yes.
Hired a bookkeeper that could speak my language because that's important. Don't hire a bookkeeper that's going to talk over your head, right?
Yes.
That's not going to educate you, right? Part of the process is looking at your numbers, looking at your taxes. Don't wait till the end of the year, right? Being responsible. Well, I remember in the early days, Jocelyn, I'm like, I have such a good accountant. I pay no taxes. Okay, no, that's not a good accountant.
That's called a recipe for an audit.
Right. But again, I didn't know, right? You're just like, oh, okay, tax savings. I've got a good one. And so, mind you, I built 10 multi-million dollar companies, two $10 million companies. So again, if I can do it, you can do it. And again, I'm sharing from my valley to go, it's a learning process.
Yeah.
Well, what do I need to learn now? And a lot of my education came from books. Again, I couldn't afford to hire a Jocelyn, right? I would go to a bookstore, read from the experts, and then I couldn't afford the $25 book, so I'd go to the used bookstore to try to find it there so that I could buy it and still afford what I was doing. So I think we
Yeah.
get creative. Again, with no back door. I had no back door, so I had to get creative. I needed the
Well, I think that's
information.
the big thing. I think if people can create, even if they have a backdoor, if they can create for themselves, they don't.
Mhm.
It will give you a access to actions that you wouldn't normally have access to because you can't go to fear and procrastination, and you don't have the luxury,
No,
you
exactly.
know?
When you've got bills to pay or, and the first year we launched the training company, right? I stopped doing hair, right? I'm like, I'll just stop doing this. That was $250,000, just stopped and go into nothing. That was my back door. I didn't know, right? So that first year we lived off our credit cards. Well, I learned early on I never want to do that again,
No, no,
right?
no.
To go, well, that's not a good strategy. But again, I had to learn, right? I had
Yeah.
to go, okay, and then one year I got in a car accident and I broke my leg and broke uh, my rib cage, and I had to go to work because I didn't have the resources to not go to work. Right, to go, I couldn't even take the time off I needed because I didn't set up my finances where I could provide for myself in an emergency because
Right.
you're young and invincible. Okay, well, that was a lesson to go, well, I never want that to happen again, you know? So,
And again, it's all those valleys that we learn from and then learn what systems are missing or what team is missing or what mindsets or behaviors are missing that will make the difference in the next round.
well, and I always had a coach like you where they're like, okay, enough of the pity party. Yes, you can have a pity party, but I'm going to give you 5 minutes,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. I was like, it's not a fun party, so, don't spend a lot of time there.
But you know what? I was like, woe's me, you don't understand. My ex-husband isn't paying any child support. Well, that was your dumbass, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're the one who married him,
Right.
goofball.
And
You
not
know?
knowing like what I could do or couldn't do, or, just being young and naive to go,
Yeah.
oh, okay. So I think all those lessons, but smart enough to go, I need a Jocelyn, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
hired my first strategic business coach when I was a technician as a hairdresser and wrote my business plan and really dialed into my ideal client that allowed me to go, oh, here's who I want. That's how I started speaking. Then I went into Hewlett Packard was my first speaking event. I did a lunch and learn. I'd never spoken before. But I'm like, there's 50 women going to be at this luncheon. I'm going to turn them into clients.
yeah.
And I was scared to death. I was going to the bathroom, puking, nerves, butterflies, just the whole 9 yards.
But your hair looked great.
My hair looks great, right? I can deflect with humor. I got
Yeah.
5 clients that day, right? 5 clients at that time. That was a lot of money. And I didn't have to wait months and months and months for them to come in. They came in right away. And my
Mm.
there's something to this, right? So I think you just keep trying to go, what works for me? What works for me? Now, I didn't like speaking for years. It was uncomfortable for me, but the end result was very powerful. So then I'm like, well, I got to learn how to speak. I got to learn how to do this. I got to learn how to sell from the stage. I don't know how to do that, right? Because I don't want to close 10% of the room, right? So I hired a coach who was the top salesperson at Dale Carnegie and speaker coach at Dale Carnegie. And he taught me how to close 25 to 80% of the room, right? And we started measuring that dynamic and going, oh, okay, I see what to say, what not to say, how to anchor a room, how to anchor yourself, right? I learned NLP. And so all this came from trial and error and going, oh, I need to learn this now. Oh, I need to learn that now. Oh, I need to learn this now to go to bring my business to the next level. So it's not been easy, right? It's been challenging, it's been hard and fun, and the growth in that and built my wealth in that. I grew up with 9 brothers and sisters. We had 1,200 square feet. So my parents weren't entrepreneurs. They had no money, right? We had a great life, but we weren't the kind of poor that you go, we were poor, but we had everything. No,
Yeah,
we
no,
were poor. We had nothing. We had
nothing.
government
Yeah,
cheese.
exactly.
I don't know if anybody remembers powdered milk, but that shit's
Oh
nasty.
yeah, no, definitely. It's definitely like you keep it in the cabinet just in case. So listen, I'm so happy we had this conversation, but there's something you were going to offer people, which is this whole health assessment. Talk a little bit about that because I'm going to put a link in the show notes so that people can actually get a little reality check on their business. So what is it exactly that you've designed here?
So I love like quizzes and assessments. I don't want Jocelyn to tell me where I suck. I want to do it myself, right? And then come to go, okay, here's where I'm at. So you take 7 questions, and they're those 7 indicators, and just be honest. Here's where I'm at. Here's where I'm not. And then I do a custom roadmap. So after you fill that out, I give you a custom roadmap to go. Here's your blind spots. Here's what you need to do. So even if you work with me or not, that's not the point. The point is get a health check on your business. Get your fingerprint. Like when you go to the mall and there's that little thing that says you are here. That's what we
Yeah.
need to go, oh, here's what's broken first. Usually it's finances, right? Because you're not making the money you want. It's either finances or team, so we're not holding people accountable. And just to see, where am I at in my business? What do I need to do? And then who do I need? Do I need a Josselyne? Do I need a Susie? Do I need both? Right? Who are those people that I need to help me? And don't be afraid to hire experts. Just do your due diligence, right?
Yeah.
You can smell bullshit a mile away, right? Jocelyn's done a great job pulling stuff out of me to go, you can tell I've done this. And then you can tell the people that are just talking about it in theory versus in the reality.
And
So
give
do
you a
your
chat
due diligence.
GPT plan, which you could
Exactly.
do yourself, you know?
Right. Amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, take the assessment. You'll get videos that come with that so you can really see. I walk you through that whole way. And it's important just to understand, where am I at and where do I need to go and who do I need to help me inside my business next.
Well, I'm going to do the assessment because I love you and I think you're awesome and fun and I love our conversation and I hope we can have another conversation and do a part 2 and maybe take on some specific thing that stops people in their business and do a little workshop on it.
What would be great is if you email Jocelyn and go, here's what I want to know, right? So on the
That
money, everything money, right? Whether you need to raise the money, leverage the money, borrow the money, it's going to come from somewhere. Like, hit the like, ask the question in the chat. Jocelyn will pick the juiciest ones, not ones, and we'll play together again. I'd love to because I love you too. I think you're like my sister from another mister, right? Because you're
I feel
the
the
same
same way.
thing. Yeah. And I'd love
Yes.
to serve you and your clients more.
Great. Well, we will find some way to collaborate. And for everybody listening or watching, depending on how you get your podcast, if you had value out of today's episode, stay tuned for more chapters of this conversation. But for sure, download or participate in the health assessment because it's important to know where you are. If you think you're in Jersey and you want to get to Paris, but you're in Detroit, your route is not going to be very effective to Paris. So you got to know where you are to be able to plan the route. Thank you so much, Susie.
Thank you, Jocelyn. And thank you for everything you do for this industry. You are a badass and an unsung hero. And I just want to acknowledge you for everything that you do tirelessly because you are a servant heart.
Ah, you're the best. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode. If something in this episode with Susie hits you, especially that moment where the business stops feeling like a creation and starts feeling like something that you have to carry or manage, like a burden, don't let it stay as inspiration. Put yourself in a room where the conversation actually gets real and practical and empowering about money. Grab my free money workshop with my money coach, Tyrone Jackson, and my dear friend, media icon, Robin Quivers. You will have the opportunity to shift how you relate to money, which will impact your decisions. They'll get cleaner, your actions will get bolder, and your wealth will get easier to build. The link is right below. Grab it. It's free. And if this episode gave you something to think about, share it with somebody who actually needs it as well. My name is Josselyne Herman-Saccio, and I will meet you in the next video.